Head over to miniaturemarket.com where they have thousands of board games at discounted prices, and you can sign up for product alerts. Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. It's that time of year, it's the end of 2020, so I'm putting out a couple of year-end videos of the best games of the year. A couple days ago, I just released a game called Best Games of 2020. You can click the link below to see that. That one is all the best categories: best children's game, strategy game, cooperative game, best presentation, things like that. You can check that one out below, before or after you watch this one. Now, this one is just going to be a straight top 10 games of the year. I've placed sort of links below as well for all the reviews that have for any of these games if you want to see them closer. So here we go.
Number 10.
We're going to start off here with a game called Aftershock. This is from Stronghold Games, and it's designed, or co-designed at least, by Alan Moon, who is the designer of Ticket to Ride. So let me give you a 1-minute overview of how this one works. Aftershock is a strategy game for 3 to 5 players where each player is going to have their own shield. They'll be doing some hidden planning behind it. They'll also be purchasing different cards and trying to control different areas. And you'll be playing either on the San Francisco side or the Venice, Italy side. And at the end of the round, certain places are going to be scoring for having the most, second most, or third most amount of people in that location. But locations will only likely score if you get help from other players, like the white player asking for the red player to help this score. Well, maybe the red player does it, but only if the white player helps red score in Palo Alto. Also, players can cause aftershocks, sending different meeples on their bridges to other places. Or they can also use other players' bridges by giving them money. And actions in this game are taken by cards that you'll purchase with a certain amount of money in this closed economy game, but you'll also be buying cards from other players as well. But not only will you be secretly planning where some of your meeples and bridges and where the aftershocks will happen, you'll also secretly be saying which ones you want to score, trying to work with those other people. You'll be managing money to buy those actions in order to place your people and also to build bridges to mitigate the aftershocks and negotiating for scoring. Now, as I mentioned, even though it's co-designed by Alan R. Moon, it has some route building there, a la Ticket to Ride, but other than that, it feels nothing like it. This game's got a lot more going on than Ticket to Ride, so if you like heavier games, still listen to what I have to say about this one. This one, yeah, you're building those routes, but the big thing in this game is the types of interactions you have with the other players, because generally speaking, you've got to work with other players and negotiate with them to help you score places where you have influence. And they don't have to always do what they say they're going to do. So this is similar to, say, like a Tammany Hall-ish style play where you're working with people, you're working with them all game, and at some point you're probably going to end up backstabbing them. And that's what this game has, along with the route building, along with interesting card play and things that you're planning for. This game had a lot going on for it. It's one that did not get a lot of buzz this year, so I wanted to bring some attention to it too because I think it's a fantastic game, and that's Aftershock.
Number 9.
The next one is from AEG. This is called Inner Compass. This is somewhat of a sort of an abstract strategy game. Let me give you a 1-minute overview of how this one works. Inner Compass is an abstract game with set collection where you're going to be collecting sets and playing them like 2 blues to get a certain amount of points, but then this market is going to fluctuate. On a turn, players are going to be moving on this randomized board and taking a card, feeling an emotion, in that direction. And if they have the right amount of cards for the color they're on, in this case blue is sadness, they can imprint a memory by discarding those cards to get that many points. Then the market fluctuates, now white is worth 6 and the blues are only worth 1. And you'll also be imprinting that memory by taking one of the 3 sadness spots, which come from your own board, and place it where you're at. This makes it harder for other players to imprint memories there, cost them more. And if you're ever able to clear a full row or column, you're able to gain an enlightenment, which are endgame goals like having pieces at the corner of the board, or having some in a row, or having some in different groups, or being on certain or next to certain colors, and these change each game. And in the advanced game, you get to imprint a memory and use the special ability in that row to give you even more depth and strategy in the game. I tend to like abstract games, and this one is completely themeless. They tried to paste a theme on, whatever, it's okay. But this game, if you like abstract games, this is one of the best I've played in a while, because you've got tactical things of what am I going to do now? What am I going to do this turn? Ooh, I can move this direction. If I do, because there's a card of that color, I get to draw extra cards. And hand management is huge in this game. Getting extra cards is huge. It's going to give you more options. But you're also in the meantime trying to be like, well, I could move this other way because I want to go there and play some cards, I'll put my little marker there. And so not only does it have the tactical aspects of what am I going to do right now, it also has the longer term strategy where as the game goes on, you're going to be looking at these long term goals that you'll score at the end, and you're thinking of, as you're starting to set up the board, is which ones do I have the most likelihood of getting? Also, which ones am I going to get first? Because if you get there first, you get some extra points as well. So short term thinking of tactical, but long-term strategy mixed in as well with some great abstract natures in this. This one's fantastic if you like abstract games at all. Inner Compass.
Number 8.
The next one is called Pan Am, and this is from Funko. This is one of those ones you can find in mass market stores, actually. So let me give you a 1-minute overview of how this one works. Pan Am is an economic game for 2 to 4 players where you'll be building up your fleet of your own airline and building up income, going to different destinations and placing engineers to take actions. You're trying to have the most Pan Am stock, counted with these cards. Whoever has the most wins at the end of the game, sort of like buying points. Over the course of the game, you're going to be building airports that give you landing rights, and you'll also be playing other cards that give you landing rights in order to build routes like this. Sometimes you might have the card of where you're going and you get to keep this. Other times you'll be discarding cards of the same region color, but you'll still be able to go to New York, for example. Other times you'll be discarding 2 cards of the same color that doesn't match the region in order to get those rights. It's very costly, but you might need to do it. From these routes, you'll be gaining you income, which will help you buy that stock for points. But it's also going to help you buy more planes and upgrade to better planes where you can go further, because whoever is there at the end of the round will pay that much to do that action. But others might want it better and bump you off. And you're trying to position yourself to get bought out by Pan Am, which will get you a lot of money to spend on stock. But you'll also be playing some hidden special ability cards at the right time, at the right place to give yourself the win. I love worker placement games and I love economic games, and this one brings both of those together where you're placing workers to get different things, but in the grand scheme of things, you're trying to build routes in a spot that you know are going to get bought by Pan Am, because whoever has the most stock of Pan Am is going to win in the end. And so you're trying to do that, but there's other strategies as well, because everyone's going to be fighting for those. And the worker placement spots are really tight. It sort of like has that sort of bidding mechanism where you go to a spot that you're going to pay a certain amount to go there. Someone else might be willing to pay more to go there to bump you off. And I always like that mechanism, sort of in Cyclades and things like that. Works really well here. Also having some intrigue of having some of those directive cards that you can play. Some of them are endgame scoring. Some of them are like, oh, you could play and it kind of messes things up. I like the intrigue there. But overall, it's a really interesting economic game of when to buy the stock, how to make the money. And it's just a very fascinating sort of, I wouldn't necessarily call it a family game. It's maybe like a next step game. It's best like right after you've started to play games like Ticket to Ride and such, you can go on and play this one, Pan Am.
Number 7.
This next one is a very puzzly game from AEG called Calico. And so I'm going to give you a 1-minute overview of how this one works. Calico is a puzzly strategy game for 1 to 4 players where each player is filling in their entire board with these different quilt-type tiles. You'll be getting points by having 3 or more of the same color, or by finishing goals, like in this case having none of the same colors or patterns surrounding it. Or attracting cats, like having 3 or more of the same pattern around, or maybe having 5 in a row of one of these patterns, getting big points for some of these cats. But your board looks like this when you start, and even the goals can be randomized. You're simply placing a tile and drawing one from the supply, and it's the next player's turn. You can also try to get different achievements each game, having a running total throughout your game lifetime. And they have different scenarios you can try to go through with different setups and different objectives for you to get to the next level. There's also a solo mode which also uses this. So let's see if you can puzzle out all 3 different main objectives at once. I love puzzly games, and this is just a pure puzzly game. You're going to be sitting there staring at tiles, you're going to be looking at the different goals. Goals are different each game, and you're trying to figure out the right places, the right tiles to take and the right places to put those. There's some longer term planning where you're looking at the board and you think, oh, this will be a good opportunity for this goal over here, but this will be a good opportunity for this goal. And at some point, you can't do everything in this game. You're going to be shooting, you're going to have to give up something to gain a shot at possibly getting something else in the end. And so it has sort of those lots of different things at odds with each other, trying to get the same, 3 of the same color touching each other. And if you get all the colors, you get a rainbow. Cool. Trying to get the main goals on the board, but also trying to get those different goals for the cats. So these different things pulling and pushing at each other makes this a very interesting puzzle. This is Calico.
Number 6.
The next one is a party game from yellow here in North America and Scorpion Masqué elsewhere in the world. And this is called Stay Cool. Let me give you a 1-minute overview of how this one works. Stay Cool is a party game for 3 to 7 players where you're going to be bombarded by 2 types of questions. One where you are trying to spell out the answer with dice and the other verbally, but while the time is going you'll have 2 minutes. These ones you'll be doing with the dice, like a place to lift weights. What is that? Ooh, it's always a 3 or 4 letter word, maybe a gym. And while you're trying to figure out what these dice are, this player over there is asking you, which has the longest teeth, dog, dolphin, rabbit, or shark? But let's say I spelled gym. They say, correct, it was gym. Then they ask me, you take this when you go shopping so you don't forget anything. And over here I say rabbit. It's wrong. They say, well, which has the longest teeth, dog, dolphin, rabbit, or shark? But if you finally say shark, you get it right, they go to the next question. This will continue until the round is over. Then you'll get how far you got down on each of them, multiplied like 2 points times 1 point for 2 for that round. Then there'll be a new active player with new cards. There's 1,500 total questions. Second round, you have to say when to flip the timer. If it runs out, your turn's over. Third round, you can't see the timer and you still have to tell it when to flip. Whoever has the most points at the end is the winner. Yeah, this one is just a fun game to play where everyone at the table is going to be laughing, including you laughing at yourself. That's what this game is good at doing, but don't worry because everyone's going to be laughing at yourself. You're not the only one that's going to look silly. And this is also one of those games that you don't have to necessarily be playing to have fun. This is one of those games that's as much fun to watch others play than it is to play it. So if you don't want to be on the spotlight, it doesn't matter. You can still buy it, play with your family, and you can laugh at them. And it's just so fun where you've got these easy questions that you should know and you should be able to spit out, but because you're being pelted in 2 different directions and playing with dice over here and trying to answer this, that you just can't put something like in order, in alphabetical order, you know? And it's just like, it's so funny to sort of laugh at yourself. This is one of the best party games that's come out in a long time. Stay cool.
Number 5.
The next one is a cooperative adventure game from Plaid Hat Games called Forgotten Waters. Let me show you how this one works. Forgotten Waters is a crossroads game where each of you will be one of these 7 different pirates. And each of your pirates, you'll be actually building a backstory and certain things will happen to that pirate throughout the game. The game is app driven and you'll be selecting one of 5 different scenarios to play. And each of those scenarios have different goals, like getting to this island, for example. But as you go, you'll have crossroad events where you have to decide what to do. And you'll be listening to voice actors tell you what's going on.
I see a lot of people on deck! More than normal! Passenger ship mays be!
The crew cheers at this, eager for plunder.
And your choices will be at the bottom. But wherever you end up, you'll be doing worker placement to take certain actions. But you'll also be managing cannons, the crew and the amount of discontent, the ship's hull, your supplies, the infamy track as to who gets to go when, and the threat track and your goals throughout the game. You'll also be tracking your ship and certain events that happen, and each scenario is done in 2 parts so you can save the game halfway through. Yeah, this game is just so immersive. You've got a pirate that you start with. You get to choose one. They have a backstory, and over the course of the game, your actions might dictate them proceeding with that backstory going further and further. There's going to be different plot points that are going to happen during each game. Now this game is driven by an app, which is definitely necessary because they have all these voice actors on there, and this game makes you feel like you're on the pirate ship, listening to what's happening, listening to the different characters. It's not like they just got one voice actor who's doing all these voices. You can tell they're different people, and they just did a great job. It really feels like you're there. The game is mechanisms light, it's worker placement, but it's like, you know, I'll go here, I'll get these resources, I'll do this. But it's really more about the story here, but the game mechanisms do work fine. They don't get in the way of the story, which is what I like. Another reason why it's on this list is it is a campaign game, but each separate campaign can be played with different players, and I love that because it's hard to always get the same group together. Fantastic game. This is Forgotten Waters from Plaid Hat Games.
Number 4.
The next one is Lost Ruins of Arnak. This is from Chex Game Edition, CGE. This mixes worker placement with deck building. Let me show you how this one works in 1 minute. Lost Ruins of Arnak is an exploration game for 1 to 4 players where you'll be going off and digging at different places, gathering resources. You'll also be exploring new areas which will give you even better options, but they're always going to be guarded by guardians that you'll need to take out, or else you'll gain some fear, which is bad. But taking them out can gain you points at the end. You'll be spending resources to do some research, getting you points at the end, but also some bonuses like assistance, which will give you all sorts of different abilities that you can use each turn. And if you research far enough, you'll get tons of points, but also still be able to research those ruins even more for more points. You'll also be purchasing items that will give you points at the end, but also cool abilities, and you'll usually get to use these cards right on your next turn. You'll also be purchasing even more powerful cards, which are the artifacts that give you really powerful abilities to do throughout the game, and you get to use them right away. On your turn, you'll be selecting cards to use for travel or its abilities, and it's a very interesting twist on deck building. It's just a great concept of mixing together the worker placement and the deck building. And I'm not even a huge fan of deck building games, but when you play this one, it's like when you play the card, you can use it to move a worker, or you can use it to do something else, whether it's buy a card or move up on the explore, go down and explore down the exploration track. And it's one of those games that, like, at the beginning of the game, you feel like you're never going to get a lot done, but as the game goes on and the rounds go on, your turns get bigger and bigger. You can do more and exciting things. And it's just such a great puzzle. The artwork and the presentation of this game is unbelievable. It looks so good. The cards are thematic. And then you're getting items in the beginning of the game, and you're getting artifacts towards the end with all these powerful abilities. The game is just fantastic. It has a double-sided board. It's going to be easily expandable. If you like worker placement or deck building, or in my case, even if you don't like deck building, check this one out. This is one of the best games of the year for sure. Lost Ruins of Arnak.
Number 3.
This next one is, I think, the sleeper hit of the year. It's definitely not one I saw coming, but man, did it make an impression on me. It's Micro Macro Crime City. This is from Pegasus Spiel. In this game, there are 16 different crime cases. This is a cooperative game where you're all trying to solve a crime in this huge but little city. The map is huge, but you're looking at different things. You're looking at all the different things in the city. Each case asks you about a specific person, shows you what they look like, shows you maybe where they live, and you're trying to work your way backwards, and you'll be asked certain questions about the crime, like what happened to them, where did it happen, where did the perpetrator live, where were they hiding out, things like that. And you're working your way, and this city's so cool because it basically is like a snapshot in different times. So you'll see what happened, and you'll look around the crime scene, you'll start working your way backwards from what you've seen, and you'll see what had happened earlier in the day. And it's such a fascinating concept. It's so fresh, it's so unique, it feels like nothing else I've ever played, but it is a ton of fun. Now this game, the reason why it's so fascinating is because you've got this map of this world, of this city, and you're trying to solve a specific one of the 16 crimes. And you're gonna be answering questions like, hey, how was this person murdered? Who did it? Where were they lurking? Where does that person live? Why did they do it? Things like that. And the coolest thing about this is, like, you're finding at the beginning, like, where the crime happened, and then you're looking around the scene of the crime, and you're, like, working your way backwards through the city. Maybe they took a bus to get there. Maybe they took the subway. Maybe they did this. And you're following this, and it's interesting because this city is like a snapshot in time, but it's like multiple snapshots in time because you're working your way backwards and seeing what happened earlier. And it's just this fascinating thing. You're seeing all these other things that had happened. Like you're following this baby that had gone all the way around. You're following the mom that lost the baby, and you just saw her crying. You're like, what's going on? You work your way backwards. You saw that she was crying to a cop. Then you work your way backwards, and you realize, oh, she lost her baby. And it's like, and sometimes, like, things like that are in the middle of another crime, and you're like, the baby was following the perpetrator. Are they involved? And you go off on these tangents, and you're looking at these other stories, and it's just so fun. Plays great solo, plays great with more players. It's a sleeper hit of the year. Don't sleep on this one. I want to be the flag bearer of this game, Micro Macro Crime City.
Number 2.
We're getting really high there. Number 2, we are going to talk about Whistle Mountain from Bezier Games. This is a fantastic strategy game. Let me show you how it's played in 1 minute. Whistle Mountain is a worker placement, tile placement, and resource management strategy game for 2 to 4 players. You'll be flying one of your cool airships, the hot air balloon, blimp, or dreadnought to forge or collect. You'll be placing onto the grid or machines to gather all adjacent resources from scaffolding, like coal, iron, gold, and water. But you'll also activate the machine's abilities that you're on and ones that you're adjacent to. You'll also be flying to docks, which allow you to spend resources to perform different actions, like gathering machines, or scaffolding that you'll be placing in the future, or gaining cards that gain you cool abilities when played, like the treasure chest that gains you 2 whistles, which are wild resources, or gaining you upgrades. And these give you ongoing ability and endgame points. You can bring all your airships back to your board to forge, which allows you to move a worker from your barracks or rescue one from your whirlpool, which will be worth negative points at the end of the game. You'll be building scaffolding, giving you points for every adjacent scaffolding and machine. You can build machines onto scaffolding, first promoting workers there onto the tower for awards and endgame points, and the built machines gain you points too. But you have to be careful because as you build higher, the snow begins to melt, raising the water level higher and higher, waterlogging machines, making them useless, and flooding your workers to the whirlpool. You'll have to use timely and clever worker placement, forward-thinking tile placement, and ongoing resource management to win the game. Whistle Mountain is just a refreshing twist on worker placement. I'm tired of just seeing the same worker placement style games over and over, and this one's so different because sure, you have the spots around the board that you can go, but you have different sized workers. And those really matter because in the middle of the board, you're gonna be creating polyomino style shapes, and you're gonna be creating the spots on the board for you to go and other players to go. So you are literally creating an infinite amount of spots that you or any players can place their workers. And the fact that they're different sizes is awesome because sometimes you'll need one that fits right where it goes. Sometimes you'll want to fit the really big one, the draw knot, and you'll want to put that there because you can get tons of things, but it's hard to fit there. And you're not only placing them for those different scaffolding, but then you're going to be placing machines on there, getting all sorts of abilities. This game has awesome combo building with all the different upgrades, your starting abilities, the combos of the machines, and you're going to be trying to find each game different combos that link well together. If you like combo building, this game is going to sing to you. If you like worker placement, it's going to sing to you. The amount of replayability in this game, because of the board changes every game and all the different abilities, and there's tons of them, makes this game what it is. This is a very fresh, unique twist on worker placement. The best worker placement game that I think have come out in a long time, Whistle Mountain from Bezier Games.
Number 1.
All right, my game of the year. Number 1 is a game that came out actually earlier this year, and I played it for the first time a year ago at Gen Con, and I was already impressed with it. This is called Search for Planet X. It came out from Renegade Game Studios. Originally, it was kickstarted by Foxtrot Games. Let me give you a 1-minute overview of how this pure deduction game works. The Search for Planet X is a logic and deduction game for 1 to 4 players where you're trying to have the most points in the end. Each game, you'll be getting some starting information that's different from all the other players. This will help you start to deduce where Planet X might be or might not be. But over the course of the game, you're going to be researching different objects through different sectors to narrow things down. You can also spend a lot of time to target a specific sector to find out exactly what's in it, but only twice per game. You can also research to find out other logic rules that are specific to this game. You'll be able to submit theories, gaining you points, but also giving other players more information. And once you've narrowed it down, it's not just the first player to find Planet X to win, because other players can also try to find it and/or theories to help even the score. There's an expert mode that brings more sectors and more objects with tougher logic, as well as a solo mode against a bot that really makes you feel like you're playing against another player because it actually learns based upon your theories. And the app really helps the game, giving you secret information and making sure you don't get any wrong answers. Now, if you're a fan of my channel, it's no surprise to you that I love deduction games. It's my favorite genre. And this is now my favorite deduction game of all time. And the reason being is because it's pure deduction. It doesn't have any Chrome built around it. It's basically like a logic puzzle on steroids. And even though it's app-driven, which I know some players won't like, don't worry, it's the best thing for this because it makes sure that, in most deduction games, the game can be ruined by somebody by accident giving you a wrong answer. You can't get a wrong answer in this game because the app is giving it to you. Plus, the app is giving you different information at the beginning of the game than it gives other players. It gives you an asymmetric sort of starting spot. The app also allows you to play a 2-player game, and it doesn't feel any different from playing another 2-player game with another player, and you can play the game solo, and it feels like you're playing a 2-player game. This game, because of all those reasons, is the deduction game of the year. Now, the fascinating aspect of using time, what you're looking for, takes more time depending on what you're doing, and you have that time track that changes turn order. You're trying to reveal different theories over the course of the game, and if you get there first, you'll get more points. And so you're learning things as the game goes on. And it kind of took that mechanism from Mystery of the Abbey that didn't work as well from a point perspective of like making an accusation or saying what you think it is, and later on in the game getting points if that's true. They sort of used that thought, but really streamlined it, made it actually work well, because in the end you're looking for Planet X, but you don't have to be the first one to find Planet X to win the game. Everyone else gets one more turn, and you actually can still score a lot of points in that last turn, and you could still win if you did a lot of the good things. Like if you got a lot of the theories out, and you were the first ones for a lot of theories, you can still win the game if you're not the first one there, and I love that aspect too. For all those reasons, this is Game of the Year. Search for Planet X. All right, well, there is my top 10 of the year. Now, if you're looking for Search for Planet X, I know that that's out of print until January, but you should be able to get that one soon. And don't forget about that other video, the best games of 2020, all the different categories. That link is below. So are many of the reviews if you want to learn more about these games. This has been the Game Boy Geek, breaking down barriers, growing relationships through board games by helping you find the next one you'll love. Lucky Duck Games has 4 new games available now. In the Court of Miracles, you lead a guild of beggars, scheme with sinister plots, and use trickery to build your own renown in an attempt to take over 16th century Paris. Baron Voodoo is an abstract strategy game involving the collection of thematic soul dice, and it made my top 10 most anticipated releases at Essen Spiel this year. Kingdom Rush Rift in Time is a tower defense with epic heroes that includes a campaign and an infinite replayability mode. It was hugely popular on Kickstarter, raising over $1 million. Chronicles of Crime 1400 is a standalone follow-up to the award-winning Chronicles of Crime, where you'll be solving 4 unique crimes in medieval Paris. These are all available in stores now, and you can learn more and order them at LuckyDuckGames.com.